The Selfish Path to Romance. Download Chapter 1 for free at drkenner.com.
And right now, I want to welcome Heather to the show. Heather, you're having some difficulty with your parents?
Hi, yeah.
Yeah, tell me what's going on.
Well, basically, my parents are evangelical Christians.
Okay.
They're very serious about their religion, and that's how I was raised. I went to Christian schools, and when I got out of high school, I went to Bible college even.
Okay.
And when I was there, I decided that I wasn't going to be a Christian anymore. I looked into it more, and I said, wait, this isn't even true. Why am I here?
Okay.
So I left, and that was a few years ago, and I'm 26 now, and I guess the problem is just, like, how to deal with my parents. I mean, they don't want to talk about it or think about it or anything, and, you know, they just kind of, they still, you know, expect me to go to church with them and everything when I go home, and every time that I don't want to, it's like they've never heard of this before.
So
I just don't know how to, like, deal with them, I guess.
Okay, so let me see if I've got the situation correctly. You definitely have had the opportunity to think about religion. It's not that you were isolated from it, it's that you were immersed in it. They're evangelicals, you've been to Bible school, and meaning you've had enough data so that you can assess it independently and decide, does this make sense? Is this the moral code I want to follow in life, or are there things that are contradictory and that don't make any sense?
Right.
And so you've made the decision that you would prefer not to have a religion in your life?
Yeah, definitely.
And what would you have instead?
Oh, well, that's a whole other story.
Okay.
After I left there, I went and I got a philosophy degree at a university, and that didn't really help much either. Like, it just took me about 5 years to figure out what I actually was going to do and figure out an actually rational philosophy that actually, you know, describes the world as it actually is, and to be happy with and find a rational morality, I guess.
Okay, so go ahead.
But that's fine. Like, I'm kind of figured out.
Okay, so a rational moral code, many people don't know that is an alternative. They think it's religion or nothing, as if religion has a monopoly on morality, and religion is just one form of a philosophy. Look at all the different religions that are around, and look at how they contradict one another. So here's what I hear is the essence. It's the battle not over religion per se, it's the battle over your mind. Who owns your mind? And when parents raise a kid, they don't want kids to veer off their path, especially when you get to the most fundamental questions about life. What is the nature of reality? How do you know it? How do you treat other people? And do you have a right to pursue your own happiness, or should you sacrifice in life? You know, those are some of the fundamental questions. There are some more, obviously, but that's the whole field of philosophy. So how do you deal with parents who are frustrated that you're not making the same choice that they did, which may make them feel like a success or a failure as a parent? Right. It makes them feel like a failure, right? In the eyes of
it feels like I'm accusing them of something.
Ooh, of what?
By not making
of what?
Decision. Of being wrong.
Okay. Isn't that fascinating?
Which, you know, I am sort of, which makes it hard for me to know what to do.
Okay,
you know
so
what I mean? Like, I do think that they're wrong.
Right.
I don't want to say that to them. I don't want that to be like an issue.
Okay, so can you be your mom with me and treat me the way she would treat you?
Okay.
What would she say?
Hey, I got to interrupt this because we've got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, that's it. A very quick ad, and then Alan will be back.
Romance. I wish I knew more about what girls want from a relationship. Boy, I wish I knew more about what I want. Where's that ad I saw? Here it is. The Selfish Path to Romance, a serious romance guidebook. Download Chapter 1 for free at selfishromance.com and buy it at amazon.com. Huh. The Selfish Path to Romance. That is interesting.
Can you be your mom with me and treat me the way she would treat you?
Okay.
What would she say?
Well, I mean, for example, right now I'm living with my fiancé.
Okay.
And I think that's important to do before you get married, is to know somebody really well.
Yeah.
But she would not even want to talk about that. And anytime it came up, she would just kind of go, and just kind of say nothing. And then maybe a few days later she would say, are you sure you're happy? Is this, do you really think that it's okay for you to do this? And like, don't you think, or, she'll like send me a news report of like couples who live together have more chance of getting divorced or something like that.
Right, I've seen those myself, yep.
Yeah, really like indirect ways of just keeping on bringing it up.
So you have an option. You can say to her, Mom, I can hear that you have concerns about my living with Joe. I'll make up a name for him. My living with Joe. And, and I hear that it really, it disturbs you, it bothers you. And if you want to touch base directly, and we can, I'll be glad to sit down and talk with you about it. I don't think it will change my mind, but it may be better to just, give you an opportunity and give me an opportunity to just get out in the open what we're feeling without hurting each other. What would she say to that?
Well, she would probably not really want to have a discussion about it. I mean, I don't think that she's really put that much thought into it. I think she just kind of thinks it's dangerous not to do what you're told. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's more that she's worried that I'm not safe than that she actually has thought about it and thinks that it's a problem.
Mom, I know you're not wanting to talk about it much. My guess, and I may be off base here, is that you're thinking I'm not safe, that there's something a little shaky about this and that I'm not safe. Am I on target at all? Or am I in the ballpark? What might she say?
Well, yeah, that's probably about what she would think.
Okay, but then what would she say back to me?
Well, yeah, there are these guidelines in place for a reason, and if you don't do them, then you're asking for trouble.
Mom, the guidelines, if you want to talk about them, I think there's a whole continuum, a whole range of possibilities. And one possibility is that I could stay with someone and then get very hurt by them because it didn't work out, and then I would feel like, oh, why did I do that? I wish I had waited till I knew I was married, or, I wish I had waited a little longer to settle in with this person. At the other end of the range are examples of people who get to know each other really well and end up being together, and they have a very happy life together. And I don't think it's just one-dimensional, Mom. I think that there are many possible outcomes. And I'm hoping sometime you let your mind go to the more positive outcomes that could come from this. Mm-hmm. So it's giving her a way to stretch her own thinking if she wants to, but just letting her know that there are other possibilities. It's not just a done deal that there's going to be a negative outcome. In terms of the religion part, how do you think she might, give me a quick example of what she might say if she hears that I'm not going to church, for example, or temple, whatever it is?
Well, I guess the way that it would work, or has worked, is if I'm staying at her house. Otherwise, then.
And she would say what?
But if I'm staying over,
right? She would say what to you?
She would just leave it until the very last possible minute and just assume the entire time that I am going to go.
Yeah.
And then eventually make me say that I'm not going.
Yeah.
And then say, and just leave and be mad at me.
Yeah.
Not really.
You know what, Mom?
Okay.
Okay, so here's what I might do, Heather. When you start to stay over there, if you're spending some time with her, you can say, Mom, I want to make this comfortable for all of us, and I want to let you know in the beginning, so we don't have this undercurrent of tension between us, that I'm not planning to go to church. And if you want to touch base, we could talk about it for a few minutes, and then I would love to enjoy the rest of the time with you without that being something that's stressful for both of us. Try that. Okay?
Right.
So thank you so much for your call.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
And here's a little more from Dr. Kenner.
Oh, my God. Here, have a rainbow by Dr. Honey Snow. Daphne, how can you listen to this stuff? It's absolute dribble.
Yeah, well, for someone who writes dribble, she's awfully popular.
Oh, really? Fancy that. She tells everyone that they're perfectly wonderful and that nothing wrong is ever their fault. What do you know? They like it.
And doesn't that happen so much in our lives? When you don't know how to take responsibility, or you're afraid to take responsibility, man, don't you want to gravitate towards people who will tell you, oh, don't worry, we're all human, it's not your fault, you couldn't help it. And there are some things that do fit into that category, things you couldn't help. But deep down, many of those issues, or maybe not even that deep down, you know you could help it. But people gravitate towards people who let them off the hook. And that happens a lot in religion. You see all of these people who are criminals or working with the mob or whatnot, and they gravitate towards religion. You know, funny how they find religion.
For more Dr. Kenner podcast, go to drkenner.com and please listen to this ad.
Here's an excerpt from The Selfish Path to Romance by Drs. Kenner and Locke.
When pursuing a romantic relationship, be wary of a partner's refusal to take a medical condition seriously, such as high blood pressure. Individuals who do not value their own lives enough to take steps to keep healthy condemn their partners to chronic worry. Who enjoys the prospect of living with someone who is at high risk health-wise, yet refuses to take reasonable actions to significantly reduce that risk? It's like living with someone committing slow suicide. The same principle holds for partners with mental health problems. This can be a serious problem because often people with mental health problems deny or do not realize how serious their problem is. For example, depression. Outside help from the family doctor may be needed to convince the person to seek therapy.
You can download Chapter 1 for free at drkenner.com, and you can buy the book at amazon.com.